Velkommen til Rekrutteringsrådet, Meyer Haugens podcast om rekruttering. Dette podcasten hvor vi samler dyktige fagpersoner for å diskutere hvordan vi kan gjøre rekruttering bedre.
My name is Petter Meyer, and I'm a managing partner of the recruitment company Meyer Haugen. I'm going to host this workshop. The background of this workshop is something that's been close to my heart for many years. I remember in the 90s, I was writing a bachelor thesis about why is there so few women CEOs in Norway. And I looked at a lot of background, upbringing, education, the glass roof and everything. And I found that around 5% of the CEOs in private company was women. But after go through all the obstacles for women, I thought, well, 5% is quite much. But today I heard that is around 19%. So in 30 years, it has been growing like double. If that's a good sign or it's not enough, we're going to discuss more about today. But the goal of this workshop is not only to talk about all the problems and obstacles, it's also going to find new and good solutions. How we can have more gender diversity in leading roles, both in Norway and all over the world. So that's the background. And I am so proud that I have three really interesting guests in this panel. First, we have the former Minister of Finance and chairperson of my and Sverre's company, Siv Jensen. Welcome. And we have President of the Norwegian Football Federation, Lise Klaveness. And last but not least, we have my partner in crime and co-founder of the Recruitment company, Meyer Haugen, Sverre Haugen.
Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to give you 5 minutes in order to reflect upon this theme. Also, it's the gender diversity in recruitment of leaders. And first, Siv, you have been in the very male-dominated field of the world of international finance. Could you tell us a bit more about your personal experience coming from Norway as sometimes the only woman in the room?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me here. I think it's a great opportunity to talk about a very, very important topic. And I want to start by saying that, we live in some serious, disturbing times, and we are scared. But I think, actually, that if we had more female leaders, we would have less war. I'm actually very sure about that. Yeah. That said, it's a paradox, actually, if you look at a huge organization like IMF, for instance, chaired by women for a long time. Now it's Kristalina Georgieva. Before that, it was Christine Lagarde. But every time I went to an IMF conference, the room was filled with men. And then there was this cheerleader, a female cheerleader, and the rest basically men. So there were a few of us that were female ministers of finance. And my experience was that, especially with Christine Lagarde, because she was there when I was at the scene, she, in a way, acted like a mentor to the female ministers and sat us in positions so that we could take more place, more room than all the male ministers. And I think that was something that she did intentional, because she wanted to show the world that women, of course, can take care of finances as well. Same, actually, now she is, Christine Lagarde is chairing the ECB, also surrounded by a lot of men. And then you have Ursula von der Leyen in the European Commission. Every time you see her on television, surrounded by men. So yes, it is a very male-dominated world. But my experience is that it was not very scary to come there as a woman. I think the most important thing was what you had on your mind. And Norway and Scandinavia was looked upon as countries that others should strive to become more alike. Because in many parts of the world, they have even further steps to go before they come to the level that we are. And then yet we are discussing how can we improve it. And I think that we need to improve. And today, the government has appointed the first female CEO of the Norwegian broadcasting ever. So that happened today. That was a good news. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Siv. Next speaker is Lise. And the first time I met you was in 2016. I was head of recruitment at the Central Bank of Norway, and I recruited you to a position at the bank. And after that, we had kept in touch. And you have been the first in so many situations. The first woman football commentator in Norway, first president of European football, and a lot of other first as a woman. Could you tell us a bit more about your experience to be the first woman in a lot of situations?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for being here. And I totally agree with you, Siv, that I think it's very important to have women in positions, also in football, and to avoid war also in football. I will not compare it to the situation we're in, but as you know, Putin and many other leaders do take very great interest into sport, and they use it, I think that it's a genuine interest also. You know, it's all leaders in every country do take positions in sports, so it's nothing special with Russia, but it's more prominent with those, I would say, aggressive countries, and we are in competition sports, so I do think it's very important to, you know, keep up the competition level, but still, you know, have very good principles towards, you know, aggressive acts with countries. And I'm not saying that women has that answer, but it is a link there, and I would say it is important in that respect also to have women in the boardroom. I think we react differently to alpha males, not, you know, alpha males can be, you know, or alpha females can be, you know, someone you would follow anyway. But I do think it's a different behavior. I feel it that way, at least. So how to be the first woman in many positions? I think it's a random chain, because I was the first woman to pundit, commentate football on television, football for men, that is. And then I was the first woman to comment. I love to have music. And then the first woman to comment the Men World Cup. And then the first top football chef, technical director in Norwegian Football Federation. And it's been many of women in these positions for women before. You know, the leaders of women national team commentating the women's game. But I was the first woman in Europe to commentate the Men's World Cup and to be the leader of the men's national team. And now I'm the first president of, you know, the federation as such. Because there's been other presidents in Europe that has been dual, that you have the president for the women's team. So the reason why I'm saying that is that when you're first in these positions, I don't think it's that different than the colleagues that has the responsibility for the women, you know, when you're in that position. It's just that it has not been anyone in that position before. So I realized, since I'm the first, it has to be obstacles, because I meet so many great women. So also in sport, it's the biggest sport for women in Norway and in the world. So it's not so that I'm the only one taking interest, you know, the only, you know, male dancer with, you know what I mean? This is not a niche. It's not a, you know what I mean? It's a big sport for women, the biggest sport, bigger than handball, double as big as handball. So when you come into the pyramid's top, it's closed for women, or maybe they choose not to go there. So that has made me reflect so much upon why is that so, and is it important that we are more? And my reflection, I would say, is more so that, like you say, it's not so scary. It's more so that it's important, that I feel it's important for people coming after me, and the people before me that has fought so hard and being criticized for being, you know, bitches. You know, they fight, they can never be a good mood. No, not so weird, you know, because they're not there when money and power are divided. So I do feel the responsibility to do it. But I would say one thing that has been very difficult is to be the first to front things. For example, to commentate Premier League games for men. when you go into the living room in such a male sport, you know, you will be criticized for many things. Voice, for example, looks, and all commentators do get criticism. It's part of the job, you know. If you do that thing, you should know that it's part of the joy of being a supporter to criticize what's with his hair or what. But I do think you do have a meta discussion when you're a woman. You know, women does not know football or what's wrong with her voice, because when you have a lot of noise in a stadium and we don't have the same bass in our voice, we have to scream. And I also think it's awful to listen to. You know, I scream, I have a nasal voice. And my mom says, you know, it's just in your head. Everyone thinks they have a bad voice. And then I commentated a game and all of Norway thought it was a bad voice. I was like, oh, you got to be honest with me. It's an awful voice. But then I realized it's also these technical things. It's because of the microphones. They don't have sound. They don't have the system to, you know, be prepared for a moment's. It is a bad sound. You know, it should have helped me to lift my voice. You know what I mean? So many those things. So I would say, maybe I'm over time now, but it's been very interesting to be the first, because then you come to technical stuff or obstacles that has not been adjusted for women. I've been very conscious that we are women. You know, we have some separate needs. Also, that, for example, before we go into TV studio, I've taken notice that I will always get comments on my comments on my looks. Not my male colleagues would not. Ugly or pretty, you know, you know, and both are like, you know, I'm not there to be a model. But then I also realized that we also spend 1 hour in the makeup chair, while my male colleague does not. So it's also a system where we, you know, have this at display. So sometimes I played with the thought to just go in without any makeup and hair everywhere, but I'm not even close, you know. It's like, no, I'm scared myself. But yeah, so it's made me reflect that I wish sometimes that we could, you know, be more to the subject of what we're talking about. So I've tried to contribute to that put football in center and, you know, to be the person to be very prepared and to talk about the subject, not my gender.
Thank you very much,
Lise. Because I just remember a very, very funny story when you talk about technical equipment, because these microphones made for men, not made for women. So regularly before a debate, when you are mic'd up, we always say you have to put it in the bra, because. Yeah. You know. And then once Prime Minister Erna Solberg and me, we were on our way into a TV studio, and there was this young trainee boy to help us with the microphones. Poor little thing. I mean, my God. What we did was that we said, okay, put it on, and then you just put it in the, you know, in the bra. And we took off our dresses and stood there almost naked, and he was like, he was blushing, and he couldn't do it. So that was funny, and that was just to state an example. Make the technical equipment fit for women as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Siv. Yes, Sverre, you have been the author of the book Jobbsøkerkoden, og you are a partner at the recruitment company Mangfold. You have a lot of experience recruiting both men and women. Could you just tell us a bit more about your experience from the recruitment world?
Yeah, and first of all, as you ask yourself, Lise, is it really important that I'm the first? And the thing is that when we've done surveys asking men and women, do you think it's important that we get more females into finance, that we get more females into tech, or that we get more men into makeup in the beauty industry, or more men into healthcare or nursing? And what we see when we split the answers, male and females, is that the boys don't really care that much. The females care more about diversity, which is kind of interesting, because if we're trying to fix this problem, it's a bit difficult if we look at it differently. So that's one thing. But from a recruitment perspective, what we see most of the time is that people want more diversity. I've been the head of recruitment for a big consulting company, and we had metrics. We needed 34% females. That was the goal. Didn't even get near it. It was impossible. It was technology, IT. And I think it's a good thing to talk about it. It's a good thing to set goals. but you need to do something differently. You need to do something differently. And if we look back, today we got the first head of the TV in Norway. I don't know the English name for it.
Norwegian
Exactly. And today I'm standing here with you, the two of you, who are both of you role models, not only for females, but also for male, me and anyone else. So obviously we've come a far way. We're doing some things right. But if we want to make a bigger change, we need to do something differently as well. So that's some of the things that I'm looking forward to discuss with you today.
But do you have any suggestions, Sverre, what we could do differently in recruitment?
I think we have many things we can do differently. One of the things, we are a recruitment company, and sometimes we have clients saying that we want a diverse shortlist. We want 50% males, 50% females, for example. And that's something you can say as our client, as our customer. But we can also set our own standards. So in the latest sales meeting I was in, I told our customers, you should ask us for a diverse shortlist, so that we get the push to do that. Because what we see in studies, or once again science, is that if you have one female on a shortlist as opposed to two, when you have two females, the chance increases 79 times that you hire a female. And it's the same for other minority types. So just increasing the number on the shortlist, that's one step. But who does that? I was in HR. No one asked me to do that in HR. If you work with recruitment, set yourself some goals. Or if you are a manager, a leader, or if you're becoming a leader, set some hard metrics on these things. Maybe not the goal of 34%, because that's kind of impossible, but more people on the shortlist, then the goal will follow. That's what I think.
Thank you very much. Yes, Lise, as a newly appointed president of the Norwegian Football Federation, do you have set any kind of gender equality goals for your organization?
No, I was elected 5 days ago, so yes, I have. Yeah. No, but 34%.
That was my goal.
Yeah, why not 35 or
I don't know. Ask the US.
Yeah.
We weren't close.
Yeah.
No, I think we had like
40% then. Yeah. No, I'm from a sector where it's put a lot of goals for us, because we represent the sports and athletes in Norway. It's owned by the people, so to speak. It's a voluntary organization. So we in our board it's a demand of 40% of each gender, and now when I was elected, we were actually more women than men, or 66% women, and they had to ask for dispensation because the law is, of course, to get more women in, and randomly they made a mistake with the poor youth representatives, so we had to pick in a boy anyway. But so in Norway, it's actually on the board level very good, best in Europe. We're 60% women now in my board. And we have that demand in every committee and also in the organization. But we're far from, it's like your goals. I led the elite department before I took this job, and that's the national teams, and that's the place where you have the least women, I think, in society. I guess also with I guess trucks or but in football, top sports football is very few women, and it was also hard for me to hire women. It's not so that I have all the answers. I worked there for 3 years. I hired very many people, and all men team I hired men, not because I wanted to hire men. And I have 100 applicants that are men, and I can find some women, but they are also busy doing something else. So it's a tech business, I would say it that way, though. So it's we have to work from different angles to attack this problem.
Yes, Siv, what's your experience from your organization back in the days from your political party in order to have women kind of standing more in the spotlight?
Well, the strange thing is that in Norwegian politics, we've had many female leaders. So, I mean, we are used to that. As in other countries, they're not used to it at all. But so I think, why is it so that you get women to take on chair positions in politics, but you see maybe a more reluctant approach in other parts of, private sector, for instance. We have set goals in public sector, at least 40% of both gender, and it has approved. Every time we appointed a board on behalf of the government, we had to appoint at least 40% women and 40% men. Good. But then what do we do with private sector? I actually think that we have to take a long step back and look at the Norwegian labor market, because some of the answers lie there. Unfortunately, a lot of young boys and girls tend to choose their future career but based on traditional choices. I remember I once met with a female carpenter, and there aren't many of them. And I asked her, why did you do that? And she said, I did it because I wanted to. But all the advice that she got from school, from advisors, from her parents, from her friends, was to become a nurse. She said, I'm not fit to be a nurse. I want to be a carpenter. And she followed her dream, which I think was great. But you see that it is not, we tend to choose what our parents chose before us. Girls want to be nurses, boys want to be in tech or in finance, I don't know. So I think we need to start by going into these young people's minds and telling them that they can choose differently, and also explain a little bit about how the working space is changing, because now you see lack of skilled people in so many areas. We lack people. A lot of other businesses, they lack skilled people. So we need to tell them that if you want to have a secure job in the future, you have to choose differently. So I think we need to start by doing that. It takes a long time. It takes a generation or two to change. So what can we do today? Well, we do have a world full of female talent. So, and we know that taking female talent into the working place creates more innovation. And we do see also that, especially now in private sector, we see a shift away from traditionally masculine traits towards capabilities that more intuitive female. And this is what modern businesses want today. They want employees that are able to solve problems, employees that can deal with collaboration with others, want to see more adaptability, and also emotional intelligence. Those are criteria and that are getting more and more important in the working place, which means that the CEOs or the board of directors in all these private companies, they have to change. Otherwise, they will be they will fall behind. I think that the scene is changing now because all of us are changing. We make decisions based on other values today than maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. So it will change. I think I'm actually very hopeful. I think it's going to be better.
Sverre, your comments?
Yeah, I was thinking about your situation, Lise, where you have when you have the applicants, it's a lot of men, right? It's the same within some industries. Maybe it's the same for some leader positions as well, I don't know. But when you have this unbalanced group of candidates, people, and when you do classical recruitment, like if you post a job ad and you hope for some applicants, then you will get the skewed list. It will be more men in tech.
And we don't, by the way. We don't have classical recruitment. We are very on references, but it's still men.
Okay, yeah.
You know, it's football coaches, so you would know who they are.
Yeah.
It's not very many women.
No, but it's yeah.
But Sverre, you have been doing some research when it comes to job ads, because that's really important. That's kind of the first gateway into a job or managerial position. So could you tell us a bit more about what kind of words you can just change in order to get more men or more women to apply?
I can say something about that, but then the audience has to promise that you won't get mad at me, because this is data. It's not my opinion that I'm saying. And we did this study that we asked people, if you see this word as a part of the qualification list, we look for someone who is hungry, a hungry salesperson, or someone who is learning oriented, or a list of different words. Will you be more eager to apply for the job? Will you be less eager to apply for the job, or neutral? And then we found some interesting things. The words that are most female friendly are team-oriented and relational, and sort of like these words that we would expect, right? And the words that are most male-friendly as compared to the females are hungry, result-oriented, all these things that we knew, right? So it's like just showing the things that we had this feeling about. But the other interesting thing is that when you look at how many words do the females pick as either positive or negative, they choose twice as many words. So the men are more, they don't give a damn that much. The females are more sensitive to the words.
So if you're writing in a job ad and you say, well, we want a very hungry and competitive manager, you got...
Who would apply?
very few women will apply.
Exactly. And I have to say, hungry, in total, out of all the words we tested, was the most negative word, both for men and women. But it was also the word where the difference was biggest. Because for the men, it was half of them said it was positive, half of them said it was negative, but in some, zero. In the females, it was negative, some.
Okay, but Sverre, when we are going to kind of solve this gender diversity, what kind of advice would you give to people in the audience that are trying to get more female applicants? One thing is like the job description, but there is something about the process in order to do the communication, or is there some other tips you would give?
There are different things you could do. The more towards the more radical tips are doing like anonymous application processes where you don't see the name, the picture, the gender. But you can do other things that are easier. For example, you can say that we have a requirement that you should be both a male and a female in the interview, as a rule. That's one thing you could do. Always, like you said, write the job ad in the right way. The worst case that I've seen is actually we had a position where we wanted more female applicants. Put it out there, and we got only male, almost only a male applicants. And we changed 2 words only. Everything else was the same. Then we got more female applicants. So that's another action you can take.
Okay. Is there any questions from the audience to the panel? Yes.
Which words? It was these types of words. I think we went from result-oriented, and some of these others, forward-leaning and result-oriented, to humble and willing to learn. It's sad. Yeah.
Okay, we have the question on the first row here.
That was the exact same question.
Okay. Yes.
I have a rather a comment. I mentioned that I have a startup and I do these kinds of pilots with different clients. And your statement is coming from really, really good facts. So we did the same for startup innovation. We just changed the language to more feminine. We didn't have to do anything. And all of a sudden, we have 7 out of 10 applicants who were women. So they were responding more to support, collaboration, teamwork, a happy and pleasant environment rather than result-oriented and goal and ambitious. So they rather have a really nice time at work. So that's the language, the tone that we changed to feminine, and all of a sudden, majorly women started applying. So it's a really good point there.
Thank you very much. You care to comment, Lisa? Or
I just wondered, you change the words, but you cannot change the job. And so hopefully every job place is a good place to work. But if your business is competitive, for example, and a bit tough. So I guess that's the question then. You can change the words, but is it also a reflection about our preferences, which will, in certain... You cannot just make up, if the scene behind is still a competitive environment. You can also change the environment because you want women to apply. But that is the problem we at least have, that it's a competitive environment because we're competing and cooperating with the people. You're competing about positions, but also with other teams. You would also think you compete with other companies, but this is our core business. we are like 2-0, 1-0. We lose or win. It is a competition. But it's also, and this is, I think, it is the biggest sport for women in the world in Norway. It's much bigger than yoga, or it's actually what girls prefer. So how can we find that synergy between? Because it's also pleasant, it's also cooperation, it's also nice, it's also teamwork. It's almost just teamwork. So I do think still it's very important to do these reflections and to take the other angle of these more hard. Teamwork is actually much more important than ambition, for example.
That's a very good point.
I had a question related to that. I mean, the words are a funny business overall. But does it also imply that women from all sorts of backgrounds or all sorts of walks of life, we need to change our mindset at certain level? Like, rather than celebrating every first, like women in broadcast, political positions or sports, do we also need to realize that, hey, I can be a power-hungry person and not in a bad way? Like, why not? So do you think we also need, like, for everything that has to happen, do we also need to look the words with a mindset in a very positive way, or very, like, boom, like straightforward way, like 2 or 0, something like that? Is it very important?
Siv, would you comment on that?
Well, I agree, because I think that we cannot leave this responsibility to everyone else. We have to start with ourselves. And I've said it in many, many speeches that I've held over the years, that we, women, we have a tendency to wanting to master our tasks like by 120% before we dare to apply, dare to take a step forward. While men, in general, they are comfortable with mastering like at the level of 70%, because they know that when they take on the job, they will learn and they will be good at it. And that's what we need to do as well. I mean, when I became Minister of Finance, there isn't a book to read on how to fill that role. You just have to take it. And you have to just go for it. And I think that more women need to go for things. Don't think through everything don't think it apart. Just go for it. But I think that many times when I was asked about, you are a powerful person, you have a lot of power when you are in that position, and I always rephrased it. I said, I prefer to call it responsibility. I always said that, and that came to my mind now. Why was that? Because I didn't like the word power. I like the word responsibility, but it's the same. Yeah. But I still sat there with a huge responsibility, kept me awake at night sometimes. I worked 18 hours a day. It's tough. But if you want tough, go for it.
And it's
it's something that you also said a little bit earlier, and that is about it has to start at a very young age. And that's, it starts in schools, actually. My daughter, for example, was automatically told that she should do this and this, and when she challenged the teacher on certain questions that she knew, it was automatically that, you're a girl, and that to an immigrant girl. Even worse. So it's like you got everything stacked against you as a girl already in a school system, which is strange because, as you say, Norway has made huge progresses when it comes to equality, especially gender equality. And the world does look up to this, and they're trying to emulate it. I know that there are countries that are sitting there researching how did they do it. And I think it's the Viking spirit, personally, that you're so good at it. But still, girls are told from a very young age that you've got to behave in a certain way in this society that celebrates equality, but at the adult age, not when they're that young. What do you think needs to happen here?
Well, as I said before, I think it has to start with the persons responsible at each school when they are guiding these young children in their career moves. Why Why do they say to girls, no, go for nurse, go for, traditional, typical female jobs, instead of asking them, what are you good at? What would you like to do? Take away the boundaries, because maybe then they will take a different choice, especially also if they know more about the labor market that they will enter into. But for me, when I was preparing for this session, I thought that it would be good if we talked about not only about gender diversification, because I think diversification in large is important. And if, again, go back to the Norwegian labor market, we have so many thousands of people outside the labor market because they have some problems in life. Maybe they have struggled with drugs. Or, it doesn't really matter why. But they have skills. They can come back to work. And how do we do that? We need to do something about that. And that's why I'm so eager to talk more about diversification in large.
But I think if you look at what you talked about also, Lise, you talked about how, it is a competitive business. And these things we need to be aware, we need to openly address these things, right? We have this term called realistic job preview, which is about explaining what the job is about, not only on the good side, but the bad side as well, which is quite important to get the match. And we need to remember when we discuss these things, we do what we shouldn't do. We generalize. Because how do you know that I'm a common man? How do you know if she's a common female? We talk about females, we talk about men, but we're all individuals with different desires, different needs. And maybe I'm not typical, maybe you're not typical. So seeing the person, that's what it's all about. But to change these things on a big level, we need to sort of address the system somehow, I think.
Yes, a lot of hands now. Yeah.
I have a question from both of you, especially for you who's working with recruitment. You said that changing the words gives an opportunity for more female candidates to apply. My question to you is, I feel now that we are working with diversity, not just gender diversity, it should be something that an organization should put forth in the opportunity, not just by words. Like you said, females don't apply in the football industry. So make it obvious in that spelling that we know that we have gender imbalance or lack of diversity, and this is the area we as an organization have focused on. And we give you the opportunity to take space. You can be transgender, whatever, but we need different of opinion in this sector, and we will give you the opportunity to grow and cultivate a new culture at a workplace, rather than just saying females actually apply on a few words. This is, in my eyes, pretty much discriminating.
Yeah.
Because I don't buy that. I don't apply. I'm an architect, female IT architect in a man-dominated.
We should talk afterwards. We'll see.
I can comment from my business though, because it's in the business I'm in, which is pretty illustrative. Because I'm a woman, I'm a woman boss. I have also a great pressure on me to recruit female from myself, from media. It's a media closed business. I'm gay. So I also, and I have no, what's it called, fordommer?
Prejudice.
Yeah, I don't have the prejudice because I grew up where I was shocked when I was a grown-up that people did not value my career as much as my boyfriend, you know what I mean? So for me, I do actually value people because I'm from the business. I played football, I've been hurt so many times, I know it's so tough. Still, so this is what we want, but it is a business where, the logic has set itself. So I do think it's very important to not just look at the recruitment process, but while like you say, also while you have a recruitment process, you should have not just a pressure there to put, an unqualified woman in the job, but then use it to these projects, which is what we try to do. But it is, and we're the country in the Europe with the most women, and we're getting there. But it's very important with the other thing you say, that it's something you do generally, addressing why it's important to have women there, because it's very important to have women in the biggest sport. And we have no immigrant women, almost in football as such, because it's viewed as masculine. So it's also, it's also a very complex thing, because then you would say that this is not accessible to daughters. It's the biggest sport. It's everywhere in the schoolyard because you have defined it as masculine, which your daughter won't approve of if she's free. Because it's, if you let a ball out there, it's actually what children choose. So for me, it's a very big responsibility, but still it's difficult. But we have to work, really hard to get there.
I agree to what you say, and I think it's vice versa for the fields where females are dominant, like CQPR and health sector.
Yes.
You should create an opportunity and have the infrastructure inside the company rather than just dancing and making the words there. And that, in my eyes, I didn't expect to hear that here.
No, but I totally agree, and you are totally right. But the thing is that you have to address this on different levels. And the thing that you're addressing is really super crucial, and I'm a bit embarrassed that we didn't talk about it yet. But the best trick to being good at recruitment is being a good employer. Taking care of your employees. The best way to fix gender balance is to have a gender-friendly environment, right? So you are totally right, but you still need to address these other things as well. I think all of these things you need to address.
Okay, are there some other questions from the group? Yes, please.
I have just something to add. I agree with what's being said, and I agree about us being told at an early age, but then about what Siv said, that if you plan to go for it and if you think about it, just want to say that it's after you've made that choice, it's very advantageous to be the only woman in that field, because then you're not one of the 10 men in the room, you're the only woman. I work in cybersecurity and I'm a woman of color. I have sat in rooms with 20 men and just me. So I always knew that my voice is getting across no matter what. So it's very advantageous once you have made that decision. You are in a place where you're valued, you're heard, and you can make an impact. You can get your voice across. So then you know that, and I've stuck in cybersecurity for years just because I have this pleasant experience of being the only person to have the benefit of speaking every time and getting heard.
It's a good role model.
Thank you very much.
We should talk as well.
I have a question for Meyer Haugen, and that's that the first workshop panel today was about pay equity. And I was wondering what you are doing as a recruitment firm to make sure that the female top talent that you are recruiting into firms get equal pay. Because we know on a statistical basis that women who are recruited as CEO, CFO, COO, sit in boards, you name it, they receive less pay in a lot of cases. And I think recruitment firms, alongside the companies that use them, have a lot of potential to do things. So I really want to know what you are doing.
It's a really good question. Sverre, or should I?
Are you asking this question in aspect as when I have a customer and I address this? To be quite honest with you, when we go into these processes, our goal is to try to figure out, okay, what's the threshold, the salary threshold that the employer has. And then maybe they say we can stretch this to up to 1.2 millions. Yeah. And then, okay, we know this sort of goal. And when we approach candidates, it's always in the first conversation, we will ask you, what do you need? If this were to be relevant, if you are actually interested in this position, if everything else is right, which salary would you need? And then this is what we sort of bring forward. And we actually don't separate males from females in this point. But what we're eager to find out is, what do you need when it comes to motivation, tasks, and salary, right? So it's a bit up to you to ask me what you need, and then I'll bring that forward to the candidates. We could, of course, say,
you should ask for a bit more.
Yeah, because you should.
Yeah.
What research shows is that it's when you show the salary bands, the higher and lower, or you show it as a percentile, then people are aware. Whereas what all recruiters need to stop doing, and managers in firms, like myself, need to stop doing, is asking people, what are you currently making? Then we will perpetuate the gender wage gap forever. Because you are probably underpaid in your current firm, and if you are making the jump to become a CEO at a new firm, you will probably be underpaid then too.
But we are not always asking what you're paying, what you're paid currently, but we ask what your expectations from the job. And that could, of course, be a reflection of what you're already making, but it really depends on if you're going from one CEO position to another, then it's more or less the same, or if you're going to take a step up from maybe a mid-manager to a senior manager. So, but it's a really good point. And I can say that sometimes we see women is not that conflict-oriented when it comes to kind of negotiate their wages. I think there's a gender difference there. So, yeah.
So how have you handled this, Siv and Lise, the salary things? Have you been tough?
Well, can I ask you? I mean, you came looking for me as the chair. Yeah.
She's tough.
No, but I think that, I mean, you shouldn't put yourself down. I mean, what are my qualities? What can I do for your company? And I want paid. I want to get paid for that. If not, I don't want to do the job. Then I go somewhere else. So I have been tough in all of the positions that I have taken now with my new life. And I love it. Yeah.
Okay, Lise, and that's then the final question from the audience.
No, just a quick comment on that. It's very interesting. You know, as my wife sits there, she can also confirm this. I've been very much so that I don't care about salary. So I've never really negotiated. I just, whatever, you know, I've just been so into, I don't even, you know, place the travel bills to the car. You know, this is how I've been, you know, because I've been so. But then I've been more and more aware of this from a gender. I feel the responsibility. This is part of being first. So now, which is pretty ironic, I think, I was elected the president of the Norwegian Federation. I had a salary in the same organization, being the technical director. So I said to the guys, because president is like the prime minister, it's a set salary that is voted on. So I said I need the same salary as I have. It's the same organization, and now I have a 1.5 billion responsibility on my insurance. So I need, you know, it's the same salary, nothing more. And then, but that was much higher than the other male president. So it was a big debate in the organization that, you know, so much salary for me. So the only time it's been conversation around my salary is when I demanded more, and I had pretty much anxiety around this because I've never. You know, but then I ended up with a very big comfort around the fact that it's very important now because it's not a high salary in my federation. It's a high salary for a voluntary organization, but this salary I had, which I now also have, it's many male in my organization that actually earn more than that, no women, but I'm the top leader. So then I have to. So I did actually feel it's a high salary. So, you know, for a voluntary, that debate. But from a gender aspect, it was actually motivating for me to like do some more of that because I've been actually the other way around.
Okay, the last question from the audience, please.
I think I don't have any question, but I will just say so. All this platform we are on, so and the She platform is creating that encourage women to take this action. I'm from Stavanger. I'm working in oil and gas. And it's kind of the most kind of male-dominated, and especially if you're working with states, for example, or other countries. So it's very difficult. But all this platform, when I became a young leader there, so you need all of that examples as you see it as you. So it's because we are looking up for you. So as young leaders, we're like, when I was promoted, I was like, okay, what do I do next? Like, and then okay. You listen to conversation, you listen how other women stand up, and then you lead by example. And this is what I'm so thankful. It's COVID is over, and now we can live meeting, and I can just speak about my mind. Like, this is so great. Thank you very much for that opportunity.
Okay. I think we're going to have to finish this workshop now because we are running out of time. But thank you very much, Lise. So interesting to always listen to your reflections about the world of football. And Siv, so nice to listen to your perspective about diversity, not only in gender, but in other fields as well. And thank you always to Sverre Haugen, my partner in crime. Okay, right, thank you very much.